Today is the day. Suns Warriors TNT, 8 o'clock. Can the Suns match their franchise best winning streak? We'll get into all of it with Aaron Edwards coming up on Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, covering the Suns the past 5 seasons as a credentialed media member. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen every single morning. YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, we are everywhere. We are free. The best way to keep us that way is to just go ahead and listen like you already are doing. So thank you very much. You can follow us on Twitter at LockedOnPHXSuns. Follow me on Twitter if you would like as well at Brendon Kleen 14. All right. We are here with Aaron Edwards. What's the best way to introduce you? You are a writer at All Caps NBA. You work for Crooked Media. You are a Suns fan. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man? Yeah, I don't really know what my title is right now. That was like the first time somebody's asked me. So I guess like former comedian, writer now. Like, I don't know. It's all mixed up in there now.
I want to start there because I always love doing this when I bring people on who aren't just like diehard, born and raised. Maybe you are born and raised. Let's just start with that. How'd you become a Suns fan? Are you from Arizona? Are you from the Valley? Did you come to it later in life? What's your Suns background?
I like to say I'm from Phoenix. I moved here from Indiana when I was a kid, but like I grew up here. I went to elementary school here. I grew up in Maryville, went to Central High. Like I'm from Phoenix, so I like consider myself from Phoenix. And like it did come later. I'm from like a family of Bulls fans, so it was kind of just one of those things that later started hitting when we moved here because we were a huge Bulls family. But after a while, like I remember the 2005 Suns doing a commercial at my high school when I went to North those first couple of years. And then it was just like, that was just the coolest team ever. Like Joe Johnson bought me McDonald's from the McDonald's on McDowell once. So it was just one of those teams that were always around. So you were obviously going to end up becoming fans of them.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say, because the people who didn't grow up here, the story is always, I just fell in love with the 7 seconds or less team. So you had it both ways. You did grow up here and you also fell in love with those teams because how could you not? No, that's cool though. There's not a lot of Suns fans. So I feel like I find one. That's part of why I wanted to have you on the show. I'm like, wait, hold on. There's a guy who's like doing stuff in the NBA world a little bit, who actually likes the Suns, not just thinks. And so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing about the job at Cricket was like I work for a Knicks fan, and it's like a lot of LA people since it's based in LA. So every episode I try to sneak in a little Suns thing in there just to at least give us a shout out for the most part.
I saw the Gorilla shirt. Shouts to the PHNX folks on the last episode. So
yes,
we love to see it. But let's dig in here. We got a lot to talk about. So we'll start with some news at the top. We got to kind of just get I feel like every day I'm doing this sort of, what can we take away from the streak? What can we take away from the streak? But as long as it keeps going, we're going to keep doing it. I kind of want to like debrief a little bit because of this Warriors game and just kind of like zoom out and do we want to see more from this team? What else is there to see? It's kind of weird to have this type of thing happen right away in the season. So we'll talk about that. And then we will also, folks, get out of here with some preview thoughts on the Warriors game specifically. But the news that I was referencing comes courtesy of Puck News, new outlet, guy over there that reports on Hollywood for them, Matthew Poloni, I believe is his name, talked in a piece today about Bob Iger, the about to be former CEO of Disney, wanting to buy the Suns. We can get into the logistics of that, but the idea was basically like he's kind of in with some of the major players in this world in terms of Adam Silver, Chris Paul, etc.
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard that or read that news, Aaron? Because I didn't even see it for a few hours and I was just kind of like blown away and I don't know how seriously to take it.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like I glimpsed before bed yesterday. Like I just saw it and it was just like, and then I woke up and I was just like, Did I see that last night? Like, it was one of those random things that was so random that your brain doesn't really compute it when you first see it. And then when I looked into it more, it was like more people had been talking about it last night. And it was just shocking. Like, that was just one of the names that didn't come up, like, in my brain at all, was the CEO of Disney buying the Suns. Like, it was, I mean, I'm sure every Suns fan is happy because we all have our Sarver feelings. But
Sure.
the Iger thing just, it really came out of nowhere.
It did. And I think, there was some like celebration of like a dude who I think like, there's this idea that first of all, I just want to say, like, I don't really trust any of these billionaire folks, these billionaire types. Like, the idea that we're going to pick a good one versus a bad one, considering how like the past 5 years have played out here, and maybe even go further than 5 years. I don't really feel like I'm going to necessarily celebrate one over the other, but I get it, right? It's like a guy who he gets media, he kind of gets sports in some ways because he obviously oversaw ESPN. Like, I get all of those things, but he doesn't have a lot of money. He's, roughly in the same sort of realm as Robert Sarver, maybe even a little bit less wealthy. So it seems like he'd kind of be part of a group. I guess the thing that I really thought of it more so than anything is it's kind of interesting how far we've come that a guy like that would want to have anything to do with this team. Like 3 years ago, that never would have happened.
No, like that's just how far we come so fast, I think. Like, it's just been like a fun team, but still low key at the same time. And those people love vacationing here in Phoenix. So it's not like he's not been here before. And just
if you live
with
in
the
California,
crowd,
it's right here, right? Yeah.
And with the crowd that we have and probably the energy that it would be just being an owner sitting on like the sidelines and stuff, I can see how it would just be pretty tempting to own our team. I just don't think he has the pockets for it though.
Who's the athlete? Like, so like in Minnesota, right? They have the rich dude and then they have A-Rod, right? Like, who's the athlete that you would want to go in with this Disney guy to be like the face of it? I mean, I guess the Disney CEO is fairly famous in his own right, but like, who's the athlete you want? Anybody. It doesn't even have to be Arizona.
Oh man, I'm gonna choose like a random one, and it's probably just gonna say a lot about me. But Barry Bonds.
Yes. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. The man needs something in his life right now.
He went to ASU, so he has ties here, and just him being on the sideline, like, he's still one of the greatest hitters of all time, and just having Barry Bonds hang out on our floor would just be a good time, I think.
Yes. I love it. Barry Bonds over Larry Fitzgerald. I think you heard it here first. Get Larry out of the ownership group. Get Barry in. No, that's perfect though. I love that. I love the weird ASU baseball connections. The fact that like ASU baseball just has all of these dudes who have come through, and nobody's a fan. Nobody goes to those games, and yet it's like Dustin Pedroia, Reggie Jackson, Barry Bonds, like all these.
You can literally tell me anyone at this point, and I just believe you because ASU's had so many random dudes. Like, but Ken Griffey went here too. Like, I guess, sure.
Matt Kemp, right? I think Matt Kemp or Andre Ethier. That's the one. No, it's crazy. All right, I want to get into some of the kind of benchmark pulse taking stuff here, but actually, let's just take a break. Let's get right into that here in just a second. First, though, I want to tell our listeners about BetOnline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to make any bet all fall and winter long. Really, I mean, they're telling me to tell you that it's all throughout the holiday season, but it's not like they're going anywhere in 2022. You might as well hitch on right now. They've got you covered for the most props, odds, and lines that you can find anywhere throughout the march to the football playoffs in both college and the NFL. Your number one spot for all sports action. So head to their new updated desktop or mobile website, make an account today, and when you do, use the promo code Locked On when you make your first deposit to get a 50% welcome bonus. That's promo code Locked On when you make your first deposit to get a 50% welcome bonus straight to your account. From football and basketball to the NHL, boxing, even your favorite Vegas casino games. That's right. You don't even have to put money on games. You can just go and play some poker over at BetOnline as well. Again, they are your number one spot for all sports action, the fastest and easiest way to make a bet. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's show also brought to you by DirecTV Stream. This sounds familiar to all of you, I am sure. You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You've got sports highlights going on your phone, and your neighbor's best friend's login just for the good stuff. Well, we want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment that you love without that hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again, and the best part, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Okay, as I was saying heading into that break, Aaron, I want to give the floor to you. What's been your biggest takeaway from this streak? Because I feel like there's like a segment of Suns fans who probably, we saw this, right? Like it's not anything out of the ordinary. They won 9 freaking games in a row in the playoffs. So winning 17 in the regular season wouldn't necessarily be all that out of this world. But at the same time, you know, it is about to potentially tie a franchise record. They're showing us, you know, a sort of level of like cohesion that I think is pretty interesting. But what's been your takeaway when you're watching these games? What are you coming away from it really feeling right now?
It's usually it's 2 big things. First, Mikal Bridges, he made the jump, and that was like the thing that we all was hoping for. Like he got the money, and he probably deserved more money, honestly. And he got the extension, and he's just been hooping. Like it's been a joy to watch. Like he made the jump that we were all hoping that he'd make this summer, and that's just been really fun. And the other thing is JaVale McGee coming off the bench. Like it's just a way different look than Sarge going out there and just holding on with another big for as long as he could instead of Ayton having to play a million minutes. Like JaVale really can carry that load while Ayton's sitting. And Sarge, like I love him. He just couldn't, on the defensive end at least, like carry that load coming off the bench. Like we were having a really tough time like when Sarge would go in there, and JaVale's just looked really, really good. And you have to take the good JaVale and the bad JaVale, and like every once in a while he's gonna do something completely ridiculous, but I think the good that he does makes up for it.
He's one of those guys where it's like it's almost hard to talk about him without being disrespectful, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
like you watch him and you're kind of like, obviously he gets the job done. He plays with such an incredible amount of energy. He's a great athlete. I mean, that's obvious when he's jumping and stuff, but he somehow does things where he can simultaneously show you how incredible he is as an athlete and how like unincredible he is as like he's so uncoordinated is what it feels like. But I don't even understand. Like I just don't get him. I don't even get how it all comes together the way that it does. But you're right. He's been awesome.
Yeah, it's like 3 times a game he has 2 left feet sometimes, and like you have to take that 3, and he's probably going to do something wonderful within those 3 left-footed things that he does. But it's hilarious to watch, but he's also just been playing really hard. And it's probably made Ayton better. Like I'm sure it's a lot tougher going against McGee at practice than it was having Sarge or Frank Kaminsky guard you every practice. So it just seems like they probably just seem more competitive now. And they probably have way more competitive practices, and it's just showing on the court now.
And I don't even want to take it in a negative direction, but there also is kind of that aspect of if Ayton ever does slack, like you got that guy behind you. So, you know, we haven't really seen it. I don't necessarily think it will happen. Yeah. But if he ever did, then like you could see JaVale McGee closing a game. Like, you know, that has to kind of be in his head. And we've seen Monty do that before. There were games last year. Dario was closing over Ayton. So I think that's been huge. And I actually think JaVale, I want to talk about him a little more with this Warriors game because that'll be pretty interesting that him playing against the way that they play, it could just be a clash that's pretty interesting. But Mikal, because I mean,
I can talk about him all day.
I talk about this guy all day. I think Suns Twitter was talking about him all day because they wanted to bring some Sean Marion slander online tonight, and I'm not here for that, but I do definitely it's not acceptable. But the Mikal stuff is incredible, and I talked about this yesterday, recapping the games from over the weekend on my Monday show. Just how, like you said, the leap is here. But it's in such a different way than I feel like at least I personally was expecting, because we spent like the whole summer after he has pretty subpar games 3 through 6 in the finals. He's not really scoring. We're all kind of looking like, what's he going to do to take that next level offensively, right? And then he comes out, his usage rate is down. He is taking about the same amount of shots. His 3-point percentage is a little down. It's still elite, but it's a little down. And yet you watch these games and you're like, damn, he's like 20% better. He just got like that much better at all the things he was already doing, which maybe we should have seen coming because he's always been a unique player, but he just impacts like every single second of the game now. Like you cannot take your eyes off of him.
Yeah, you can just tell it slowed down for him. He covered James Harden full court the entire game. Like he would not have done that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He would have got toasted. You can tell he's gotten stronger. The game slowed down for him, and he's just doing it on the other end of the floor. So it's really hard to see, but you'll see he has 6 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 steals, and you're like, okay, like that was the game we needed from him. And he'll give us a 17-point game, 20-point game every once in a while, but for the most part, he's guarding the best player on the floor the entire time, and he's still giving us something on the other end, even if he sometimes doesn't shoot as much as I would like him to.
Yeah, that point about it slowing down is exactly right. I mean, I think what's cool about him, and you're talking about the strength, and like I agree that definitely has come along, but it feels like there's an element with him where it's like, whereas maybe when he was a rookie and things were kind of moving and he's trying to just figure out what his role is going to be and how the NBA game works, where you could just, he'd get caught on a screen because he's so lanky and whatever, or, he might get kind of blown by because somebody just kind of gets past him because they're better than him. Now it feels like he may not be strong enough to like, shove Harden around. He may not be quick enough to, we'll see against Curry if that matchup is still a struggle.
It's going to be a tough one.
It has been, right, for a long time for him. But he just knows where you're going to be. So he's like, you can see him sometimes when he's going through a screen, he's like, I'll kind of go around, or, I'll wait for you here, or, maybe I'll just bait you into this switch because I know Ayton can guard you. Like he just has such a control. It's ridiculous. You're right. We could talk about him all day, but I wanted to pivot a little bit too, because I'm curious. This is something I've been thinking about, and again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but you usually see these streaks. Like you think back to that Heat team that got up into the 20s, and obviously like those Warriors teams. It takes a bit for the streaks because the teams kind of have to like get into, I don't know about shape, but like kind of settle in. Yeah. And this is happening right away. So what is like after this streak ends, because it will eventually. I mean, I'm along for the ride for however long it lasts, but they're not going to win out. They're not going 79-3, right? So what is this regular season like? Getting this big achievement out of the way and doing all of this, proving so much as a team. Like, what happens in the regular season? Is it just going to be like after this streak ends, whenever that is, we just kind of wait for the playoffs? Like, I don't know what comes next.
Yeah, like I feel like Chris Paul, like he might just like we're gonna have a decent lead in the playoff standings after this streak ends. Like, I don't think it's gonna end tomorrow, but I do think it's gonna end. And I feel like Monty, I think he can figure out the time situation and who needs what minutes, because we did just play in the finals, and that was a pretty short off season. And Book did go to the Olympics, and he did have COVID, so I could see some time load management stuff coming later. But I think that'll be more like after All-Star break. But it's just been I'm actually shocked that we started 2-3 or something to start or something like that.
1-3, yeah.
Yeah, 1-3. Yeah. I was actually shocked at that because they just seemed really hungry after the finals. Like they knew that they blew it. Like Milwaukee was better than us, and it seemed like they really worked this offseason, especially Bridges and the new additions that we have with Shamet. And I just think like Cam Johnson came back better, and he played really good that finals, honestly. And I just knew that they were going to come back pretty hungry. And the slow-ish start, even though this is still considered the start, was more shocking. And this streak, even though I didn't think it would be this good, is kind of what I expected for a team that lost in the finals and really thought they could have had it.
Yeah, normally I would say, like, I feel like the point of the rest of the season or whatever comes next would just be to kind of keep figuring each other out. And I do think they're probably going to make a trade at some point. So that probably will be a process at some point of, integrating whoever they go get. But they like the reason they're winning these games right now is because they've discovered that identity. Like, I'm not going to put a limit on it. Like, they probably can get to a better point with that stuff, but it's hard for me to imagine that they get too much more connected and cohesive than they already look. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to be curious to hear from them whenever this ends. Like, what are you guys chasing anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what are they kind of looking at as the next thing? I mean, they'll have these benchmark games of like, okay, how do we look against the Bucks? How do we look against the Nuggets or whatever? But I don't, if I were them, I'd be like, what else you guys want to see? Like, are you not entertained type of thing?
Yeah. And now like Book got his first taste of the playoffs. A lot of them did. And I think just the mindset is, can any of these teams in the playoffs beat us 4 times? And I think that's probably just what the look is. Like, forget the regular season, like forget the streaks. Like the streak is nice. And I know they probably want to break it. But I know the biggest mindset for Book, I think he even said it today, was like, can any of these teams beat us 4 times in May through June? And I think that's probably the biggest thing for them right now is if any of these teams are as cohesive as them and can beat them 4 times in June, then that's probably like the biggest hurdle for them. And I don't think they believe that.
Yeah, that's the carrot to chase. And I think too, there's probably a little bit of them that probably will never be satisfied with the disrespect that they probably felt last year, getting kind of laughed at and underestimated throughout their run. So I'm sure there's part of them where it's like, okay, you know, maybe we were lucky, maybe we were this, maybe we were that. Well, watch us win 60 games and then, you know, keep talking type of thing. And I that probably will kind of push them throughout the season. But on that note, kind of how they stack up and everything else, we have a big test to watch them face on Tuesday night here. So let's get to our thoughts on the Warriors game. We'll do that after one quick break.
All right.
All right. Suns Warriors, 8:00 local time, TNT. We'll have Chuck giving his opinions. We'll have late night Valley basketball. We will have all of it. I think it's safe to say, right? This is kind of the biggest game of the season so far in the NBA.
Yeah, it's easily the biggest one. And I'm pretty sure everybody's just as shocked as we are that we're part of this. Like, we were getting blown out in these games 3 years ago. So just being in the conversation for a game like this is really bizarre.
As Book tweeted, I remember when we used to have one national TV game, right? And it was like the fake rivalry game that the NBA would put on, where it was like, oh, you know, Ayton versus Luka or Josh Jackson versus whoever the hell that they picked.
Yeah.
They didn't pick that Lonzo or something. And it was like the first week of the season and it didn't matter at all. And now, yeah, this is one of probably many games that the Suns will be in that will be pretty highly regarded. What are you looking for? How much have you gotten to watch the Warriors? What kind of things are you going to have your eyes on in this game?
I'm mostly going to look for how Book handles Draymond, because that's going to be a big one. Because Draymond's going to be in his stuff pretty hard. And just if Chris Paul can get started fast, because Steph's going to get started fast and they're just going to get started fast in general. And we're usually a pretty slow starting team, except Book. He always has really good first quarters. And I just don't think we could start off slow against them. It's going to have to start off pretty quick.
Yeah, no, that's a good call, because I feel like it's just hard to come back against them. And that's the thing that I think has always gotten kind of lost about the Warriors, because we watch the leads build. But I think the part that gets underestimated is like, but they keep them, right? Like they don't, they go up 20 on you and they stay up 20 on you for the most part. I feel like those Rockets were kind of with the Chris Paul, James Harden Rockets, like the one team I ever feel like you saw push them back. But I think overall, like, I think this game is probably going to be lower scoring than you might think, because these are, I think, 2 top 3 defenses. So yes, it's Curry, yes, it's Book, but I think this team's going to be, I think this game's going to be pretty low scoring. I think, as we were talking about the Bridges Curry matchup, because I wouldn't think anything will change. I would guess Mikal will be guarding Curry. It's not historically been like a very easy matchup for him, so that'll be tough. And then, what do you think of? You talked about Draymond just sort of like psychologically with Book, and those guys obviously have a relationship. But what about Wiggins guarding Book? Does that worry you at all? Because I think he's underestimated or undervalued at this point. But I don't think he's the type of guy that Book's going to have much of an issue with.
Nah, he's had a pretty good. I mean, it's just a skinnier PJ Tucker, and I think Book did really good against PJ Tucker. Like, Tucker tries hard on defense, and he's like actually really good on defense. But I don't think Book like the way he's playing right now, I don't think he really sees who's in front of him at this point. This is like his best shooting splits he's ever had. So I just think like he's really.
What do you think? I feel like RJ Barrett actually like on my screen, I was like, he's doing pretty well, and then Book dropped 30.
Yeah. Yeah, like Barrett, like he had the young legs and he was really getting under those screens and stuff, but I just don't think Book cares who's in front of him at this point, even though Draymond is Draymond. So Draymond and Wiggs, and you're going to just have to try to keep those two off of you. But for the most part, I think Book is just going to do his thing. We just need Chris Paul to start quick, and he can't do his little Chris Paul thing and wait till the fourth quarter because it can get ugly if he tries to pace it that way. And especially in the bench too. Like the bench is going to have to come with it because Jordan Poole will be in that second unit and he will light you off the floor if you let him.
Yeah, no, it's a great call because on the Book point, it's those you have to be able to move him off of his spots if he's gonna notice you, like you said, right? You have to kind of be strong and physical against him. Lou Dort, guys like that, the only players we really ever see him actually look off against, and Wiggins is not that type of guy. Bench wise, I actually got some numbers on that. So Curry's obviously at the top in terms of the on-off stuff for the Warriors. Like I think I have it right here, 22 points better per 100 possessions when he's out there, which no surprise. He's on his way to maybe another MVP. But like the next like 2 through 5 on that list, it's Gary Payton II, it's Andre Iguodala, it's Bjelica, it's these bench guys because, well, first of all, they play with, they mix and match. They don't really do the all bench thing, but they go out there in those second units and they'll put a bigger lead on you. And so that's going to be really interesting. And that's where I wanted to get back to JaVale McGee because it's a really like polar opposite type of matchup in that second unit with JaVale against a guy like Bjelica or even Kevon Looney, right? So I'm really interested in that, whether it's Poole or Curry kind of coming off those screens. And JaVale likes to drop down way deep into the paint. He's just trying to get a block.
Yeah. Like he sits back there and waits.
Yeah, and what happens when he has to maybe step up and try to get a hand in Curry's face or in Poole's face, or Ayton for that matter, because he's pretty similar. I think that'll really decide maybe early on, and if the Warriors offense can get started hot, I think it'll be because they're making some of those shots off those screens, and Ayton and McGee are struggling to contain them. So that might be where a lot of this gets decided, honestly, is that stuff, because it's Bridges, of course, but it's also what else is going on around them, and Curry's going to try to test you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's one of the times where we miss a dude like Sarge. It's when the team can go small and do the screens and stuff. And Torrey Craig, too, honestly. Like, if we want to go small and have an athletic out there, like, he was really good for that, especially when Sarge got hurt in the finals. And, now that we don't have a dude like that second unit can hurt us because JaVale isn't super great getting the pick and the pick and roll, so it's just going to just be pretty much a learning experience for him, especially for the playoffs, even though he has played on this team and against this team, but Steph's going to try to put him through hell, and he has to know that. And we haven't talked about Ayton at all.
I know. Well, I think it's going to be pretty similar. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but with Ayton, like I'm sure there'll be some fans who probably see how small the Warriors are going to go at some of the points in this game and feel like you have to post Bjelica, or you have to post Ayton up on like Bjelica or on Draymond or whatever. But I don't know. I've never felt like that's the way to get this offense going. And I think that's the trap the Warriors want you to fall into.
Yeah, it seems like most of the time when Ayton starts off hot, it gets in like a ball stoppy situation and it just messes the offense up. If he can get it in the groove of the offense and we can get it to him instead of trying to force it to him, then everybody gets their touches and the offense moves smoother. But every time, like I was at the Denver game, the first game of the season, and he started off hot and we were force feeding him, but the ball just wasn't moving. It was just hitting down there and he was making shots and it just became like super cramped and the ball just wasn't flowing like it usually does.
He's going to have to hit the boards. I mean, I think that's the place where he can really hurt them is even if they're not going small. I mean, he's a better rebounder than Looney. He's a better rebounder than even their like traditional bigs. So that's a place where I think he could really do his damage. He's going to be really big on defense. I think it wouldn't be crazy to me if they tried switching and had Ayton try to just, hold his ground against Curry every so often too, rather than always trying to, step up out on the perimeter. So Ayton's going to be huge. I think Bridges obviously guarding Curry is going to be really big. You mentioned Chris and needing to maybe be a little more aggressive as a scorer. I think Book's going to be in for another big night. I mean, he just gets in these grooves where it'll be 2 weeks before he cools down. So I don't think that's going to be a worry. I don't usually do a ton of predictions like game by game because there's 82 of them and it's not worth it. But this one's big enough. I feel like you said, though, earlier in the show, I feel like you gave it away. You said it sounds like you think they're going to win. Is that just because they're at home, or you just?
Yeah, I think because they're at home. Because I think because they're at home. Because I really do think we're going to lose to them Friday. But I think that we're going to get this one, and probably we have Detroit on Thursday, and the Warriors at the end of a back-to-back. It's just not something you want to do, and so I think the Warriors are probably going to give it to us pretty bad on Friday.
I think I agree with you. I think I agree. Yeah, because I've already picked. I already thought the streak was going to end twice. I don't know about you. I thought they would lose to Denver, but that's the game where they ended up that Jokic didn't play. So
I thought we were going to lose to Brooklyn. So
I thought, and that was the other one. I thought
we got through Brooklyn,
lose to Brooklyn.
Yeah. So once we got through Brooklyn, I was like, all right, the Warriors game is bigger now. And then I saw that we had them twice in a week, and I was like, it's ending one game this week. I just didn't think it was going to be on Tuesday.
All right, I feel like we have to end there because just like a couple of my friends, you get me talking, and then I start using the we, which I try not to do because I'm supposed to not to be succumbing to these tendencies of fandom. But no, that was fun. I think they will win. I think that they will win on Thursday, and this streak will be the longest in franchise history. I do agree with you. Friday on the road against the best or second best team in the NBA is a very, very tall order. So I probably tend to believe that they will lose that one. But man, I mean, a month plus of winning basketball games.
Yeah, I'll take it.
An accomplishment. Like you take it every chance you get. And the biggest thing too, I mean, it's been fun and obviously they've proven a lot, but like, I think your point earlier on was the best one, which is they've given themselves such a cushion in the standings where they can drop some games or they can afford to rest guys if they have injuries that they don't want to push. And now they have all of this, the rest of this season where they're so much ahead of the Clippers or the Mavericks or the Blazers, these million teams that they don't have to worry about it. So
Monty can test lineups. He can do whatever he wants and just figure stuff out for the playoffs.
Yeah, man. All right, you can check his work out over at All Caps NBA. They do awesome stuff. I feel like if I'm introducing you to the idea of watching that show today, I don't know where you've been, but definitely check that out. Support a fellow Suns fan. Thanks for coming on, Aaron.
Thank you so much, man, for having me. That was fun.